Hello, I'll be doing my presentation today on the show Dear White People. So, despite the title, the show is actually a comedic drama satire that focuses on the Black or any marginalized group struggle against injustices like racism, sexism, homophobia, classism, and many more issues. And it also calls out the privileges of those in power, and that's where Sam, the main character, that's what her focus is on, is calling out white privilege. And also, it becomes an issue later on in the show that wealthy people also become a huge issue when it comes to injustices and unfair treatment. And Dear White People also expresses many social and political issues that I will bring up later in the presentations, such as Black Lives Matter and also political issues as well. First, about the actual show. It's a Netflix original TV show that actually came after the film that was done a few years before, and it was so popular that many more people wanted to see a series. So it follows a group of colored students as they experience college life in a predominantly white Ivy League university. And one of the students, Sam, is a young activist who runs the famous and infamous radio talk show, Dear White People, that she actually started with her friend to pretty much call out all the prejudice and racist behavior that goes on in the student body. And usually higher ups in administration don't really pay much attention to any of the actions. So she takes it upon herself to use her activism on the radio show. And thanks to a blackface party on campus, this breaks the facade that the university was actually diverse and progressive as much as they were trying to like say that they were, a diverse and fair and progressive university. This party proves that it's not like that. And Sam, along with her friends, protest the school into action about social justice and racial equality and, just improving the behavior on campus. So, along with that, there are just issues talking about race, sexuality, class, gender, and corporate power. And it really proves that, this show really digs into a lot of deep and serious issues. So before we get into the actual issues, pertaining to pop culture and political issues, first we need to talk about, mass media and how it played a part in how to express those beliefs. And this show uses media to express, social and political beliefs very well, with Sam using the radio talk show, Dear White People, as a platform for her activism. And this comes from Goran's article about how pop culture influences can become platforms for expressing those certain political statements or issues. And I think that Sam does it quite well in the show. And, it really does bring a more modern representation of the issues that are still going on today. Okay, these are my findings for Dear White People being connected with social and political issues and pop culture. And the first one is racism and also a little bit of cultural appropriation. And this is the main event that triggered the events of the show. It was the Blackface Halloween party that was thrown by a group of white men protesting Sam's talk show. So this event definitely, inspires elements of racism and hate and cultural appropriation, showing that white people use their privilege to think that it's not harmful to, dress up as a black person, simply saying it's just, a costume, and when that's actually harmful and dehumanizing. So Sam uses this event as a way to open up protesting against the racism and offensive actions that occur on campus. And it really does prove that there's something wrong here. Racism is a huge issue that is still plaguing our society. So it's good to see that she used this event to be like, yeah, there's definitely a problem and we're going to do something about it. Another example I found was with race and politics, and it talks about this character Troy Fairbanks. He's actually the son of the university's dean, and he's a character who's trying to run for student council president as the first black president at the university. So it would seem like it's a huge milestone for him to be elected since he is a black man. And he believes that assimilating into the system is a way to gain acceptance and equality, more than actually just protesting and activism like Sam does. And this show gives another element of what does it mean to try to find equality and acceptance, not just protesting or, even like rioting or anything. He thinks it's better just to become a part of the system and, you know, gain favoritism amongst them. But this also brings up the issue: is that the proper way to gain acceptance, or is it just a way to, become a part of the problem? And that's what this show does really well as well. Try to bring up more sides of how do we stop racism, or how do we, you know, come together, as equals. So I thought that was a really good example to put for the show. And lastly, I think this is one of the most powerful and important elements to bring from this show is the episode where they made a big call out to Black Lives Matter. In this episode, Reggie is one of Sam's friends, and he is at a party calling out one of his white friends for saying the N word. And a dispute happens, and then the police are called. And, the police immediately targeted Reggie because he's a black man, and pretty much held a gun to him, even though he was unarmed and simply trying to reach in for his ID that the police told him to get out. So it really was a powerful scene in proving that, this happens all the time. There are many incidents of unarmed black men being killed, by police officers for doing basically nothing, or even if they are doing something, they are unarmed. So it's really just, terrible injustice being inflicted on these people. And it really does bring up, the Black Lives Matter. That's what the movement is fighting for, is the equality, and also, against police brutality. So I thought this was a very great moment to pick from the show that really just helped go into, political and pop culture and, everything. So I really appreciated this scene, and it was really powerful. And that concludes my presentation. My findings pretty much showed that Dear White People did illustrate many elements of racism, police brutality, corruption, and other issues that, plague our society today. And I think it's important that we talk about these issues because they are still issues that have not really found much of a solution. And, as it's important that the show states, is that you have to stay woke and stay well informed. And thank you so much for listening. All right. Bye bye.